Thank you so much for waking up with us today. It is the start of a brand new week. And of course, good morning and welcome. My name is Lungilele Makakura. I am with my co-host Fiso Ngumalo. Fiso, good morning. How was your weekend?
Good morning, Lulu. Had a great weekend. I saw my mom, I saw my family. It was a fulfilling weekend on my end. How was your weekend?
Alright, my weekend was great as well. It is the 5th of June 2023. This week.
Mane ke Lulu, is this the second week of June or the first week of June? Ngoba siyakhumbula ukuthi liviki liqale, in fact June uqale on a Thursday.
On a Thursday.
The
second week of June. Yeah.
Unfortunately. After 7 days, 7 days. But anyway, it is the 5th of June, as you rightly put it, Lulu. It's halfway through the year. Like you highlighted last week, it is a blessing indeed to be here once again. Kusile breakfast show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Unfortunately, sifisa njengoba kumsombuluko nje sivuka ke netindzaba letibhlungu njengoba nje lapha edolobheni filling station yaseGalps sivuka nendzaba ukuthi sekube nengoti leyendekile kumshayeli lebekacuba yona imoto. I think lesikutholile nje sifiso masifika khona lomhla ekseni ukuthi lo mshayeli bekashayela imoto yehlobo le Chevrolet kube ngazothi beka uqala wayowetha petrol kulenye pump bese kuya kulenye pump wayofaka umoya ngathi bese kwentekani kepha uyayichaza sifiso yena lo officer la ka file ukuthi ngazothi ngathi kube negligent vele nje.
Yeah, it was negligence on the driver's end. Lolo bese soyalimala lana because the report says bekafaka umoya imoto akayikhokhi egiyeni. Ufaka linyawo linye ngekhathi kuthi ke utayigatsa nje just in case. Yabo lo ukuthi unayo le instinct ukuthi lela kwenta kokuro. Mafake lelinyawo linye la ngekhathi yagatsa kulibeka ebrekini. Shothi ngekuthi le pump ibe khashana linyawo lishift libe ngaka-accelerate. Right. So nakacedza kuyetha umoya nakathi sawutawulungela kungena igcuma imoto. Uma igcuma ihamba ngalosivele beyisegiyena akakhona kuyilawula kahle. Maketama kuyilawula ke uyathi ukuthi lapho naye sawuthukile ngokuthi vele use gas station. Atame kuyiswayisa uma ayeswayisa ingene iconzane nepump nakathi uyayibalekisa la kule pump ishayise nakwethe insimbi nayo insimbi nje nayo lebalaceleni kwemapump kanti ke nale pump ilimele kancane but nje labagcizelela kakhulu labe bakhona lapha ukuthi lokube fortunate ukuthi angashayisi le pump yona itself. So what they did is ba disconnectela ama terminal masinyane laba sebenta lapha ke nekusitwa ngibo beticisha umlilo ngeadvice yabo ukuthi disconnectana lama terminal masinyane ungase kusuke umlilo lomkhulu beticisha umlilo ke njengoba tithombe diveta they were the first responders basheshe bafika lokhu nje kwente ngetitfuba 4:00 sineke sifike vele kale tithuba 5:30 to 5:30 lapho khona sikhona kuthebula nama visuals now lesikuva ukuthi sebamphuthumise esibhedlela lona bekachuba yona lehlobo lemoto le Chevrolet Aveo sesiyacabanga ukuthi ke langa lisaqhubeka sitayitfola leminye imibiko naleqhamba khona emaphoyiseni embobene sive ekutheni bathini bona ngalesigameko lesi uyaboshwa yini lo ekunene ngoba phela siyasho ukuthi vele ulimele. That's fine, but the negligence I don't think betemthetho but I excuse her.
Yeah. But it's hopefully mhlambe umbiko logcilo utawutfolakala tindzaba enitanga 1 lomhla
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anyway, it's a Monday. Kanti ke lomhla ekseni sitabe sikhulumisana nalabasuka ka Eskom Consumer and Communications Manager Fisiwe Vilano. Tokumbuka ukuthi on Friday last week libandla letekuxhumana iSecom lelengamele letekuxhumana iSecom lahlomelisa abafundi labangenele i-letter writing competition yamnyaka wa 2023 lomncintiswano ke lona wangenelwa abafundi labangetulu kwa 3000 etikolweni letehlukahlukene lapha ekhaya bekunama categories lahlukene ngesiswati baphinze babhale nangesingisi abekhona ke presentation last week lapho khona abafundi bawena tincwadi bawena ama laptops bawena stationery supplies kanye nje nalokunye ngisabe sikhulumisana naye Fisiwe Vilano kuva kabantu ukuthi yini kahle kahle lena bebayibuka ngidoda incwadi dabanifana ukubuka nje ukuthi ingabe vele mhlambe inshisekelo ke babafundi ukuthi babhale leti incwadi ime kanjani sizabe sinayo lo mhlakuseni at 6:30.
Yeah, kanti ke njengoba kunguye umsombuluko sita ukhulumisa ke netemidlalo lapho khona Lindama Stadlamini utasijoyina ukukhulumisa lokuningi lokwendekile ke kule mphela sonto lesisuka kuyo. It was quite an eventful and exciting weekend endzabeni tetemidlalo, especially in the world of football. Siqale ngayo ke Manchester City ne Manchester United lebe tihlangene ku FA Cup final lapho khona ke sibonile ukuthi Manchester just one game away from ku complete a treble after ukuthi Gundogan ascorishe ke twice in a 2-1 victory over yona Manchester United kuyo FA Cup final. Just 12 seconds lebeka khona on the clock when yena Gundogan sensationally volleyed Manchester City into the lead, beating the previous fastest ever cup final goal FA by Louis Saha after 25 seconds. Goal ke lelo belanga 2009 still bonile ke lelisha lelibese libreaka yona leyo record. Kanti ke sibonile ukuthi United were on the brink of yona ku freeza yona a big stage during a dominant opening City lead lapho khona sibona ukuthi Gundogan uvele nje wide dominator Manchester City. Siyafuna ke ngena nakuletinye tindzaba, especially tindzaba tema transfer. Sibonile PSG Lionel Messi naba announce officially ukuthi he was playing his final game kuyo yona lempela sonto nayo PSG. Wasn't really good news on the ears of a lot of PSG fans. Lababe very disappointed, and this was seen through a reflection of their Instagram account in terms of their followers. Lapokona they lost 1 million followers, exactly 1 million followers, and that is estimated nyalo it is right just above 1 million followers labam luzile. Kanti ke sibonile ukuthi na Messi umalanza yona imedal yakhe after le game yempela sonto. Kube nemabhuzu lamanengi from the fans lebeka khona lapha stadium loku khathazeke some of emapundits ebhola ukuthi this is no way for ema fans ukuthi behave. Kanti ke lenye le interesting indzaba ya Karim Benzema lo after 14 years will be leaving yona Real Madrid. Loku announced ngilo licembu le Real Madrid exactly 6 hours ago at inkundleni tekuxhumana sitfolile imibiko ukuthi Karim Benzema is leaving Real Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti, Real Madrid coach, not so happy with this decision, but uyasho ke lokho ukuthi kuyabaniketa lithuba lokuthi basayine ema strikers la masha latawukhona ukuthi avale sona sikhebe sisekushiwa nguye Karim Benzema. But ke tonke letindzaba leti naletinye temidlalo sitakhuluma kabanti nakasijoyina Lindama Stadlamini.
All right, so 7 minutes after 6 asibahle temagethe sibuye netindzaba Eswatini.
With the change in technology, out-of-home digital media is designed to grab the attention of people who are always on the go. You can now watch your favorite show, Kusile Breakfast Show, and Tinzaba at 7 on your favorite YouTube channel.
It's simple. You can stream these shows by following these quick, easy steps. Number 1, open YouTube. Number 2, search for Eswatini TV and click on Eswatini TV. Number 3, after you had entered on Eswatini TV, look for Tinzaba or KPS. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell button to get notifications of our video uploads and streams. And lastly, enjoy the stream. Stay home and watch Eswatini TV. Stay safe.
Ngithi imizuzu lelishumi ibumbene insimbi yesithupha lomhlekuseni asithathe indzaba lapha ekhaya. Silo inkosi iMswati wesithathu sesibonge inkonzo nemthandazo lolethwe libandla lakaShembe iNazareth Baptist Church lapha eveni leSwatini. Ingwenyama beyiphefumula emkhosini yemigidvo lengcwele yelibandla leNazareth Baptist Church Shembe lebekade ke isesigodlweni eLitsitsini. Le migidvo beyikade ibusiswe nakuba khona kwendlovukazi umhlekazi.
Kube nemthandazo esigodlweni eLitsitsini lebo ukathe wentiwe libandla lakaShembe iNazareth Baptist Church lomhla kuchubeke imigidvo lengcwele. Lemgidvo icale enkhundleni khona esigodlweni ekubeni kufike silo inkosi iMswati wesithathu. Lemigidvo beyikade ibusiswe nakuba khona kwendlovukazi mhlekazi emakhosikazi esilo sigodlo losabambe isikhundla sokuba ngundvunankulu tindvuna tembuso bobabe tikhuluka yena labanye labakhulu embusweni. Kulesigaba sesibili semthandazo lobe ulethwe libandla lakaShembe tinkhulungwane tamalunga alelibandla tetfule tinhlobo temigidvo lehlukene embi kwemakhosi nemholi walelibandla. Loku kulandzela ukuthi leli bandla leyame kakhulu emasikweni akaZulu. Ekhathi enkhundleni emalunga alelibandla abekadze ehlukehlukene njengoba bekunabo babe kunelibutho labomake kunelibutho lembali kanye nelibutho lemajaha. Kanike lo mgidvo bewukadze uholwa ngito ticheme ngekwehlukana kwato ekhathi enkhundleni. Libandla lakaShembe lasungulwa ngeminyaka 1910 kanti linemalunga langetulu kwetigidzi letilishumi emhlabeni. Bese kuthi eveni leSwatini emalunga alelibandla alinganiselwa etinkhulungwaneni letisiphohlongo. Athe emabutho angacetsa kugidza kwase kufika isikhathi sekuthi imbubu yemhlaba kunye naHis Holiness Mduduzi Shembe ibusise wona emabutho abekadze agidza enkundleni lebe kusho kona kuphetheka kwemigidvo. Sesiphefumulela umhlaba silo inkosi iMswati wesithathu sibonge umthandazo kanye nemigidvo lethulwe ngileli bandla lakaShembe saphindze futhi safisela lona libandla indlela lenhle.
Sibongela kakhulu kuShembe abe nathi bunanzi ungathi ngabe akusapheli ungathi ngase sakhe amadvowolo khona la kubonala soke ukuthi awu asisahambi. Ngikhumbula ngalelinye ilanga eBhayibhelini khona bebayempeni wathandaza umfundisi wathi awu Nkosi ngicela ubambe lelanga lingahambi ngiceze netitha tami. Nathi sesifisa ukuthandaza ukuthi ngathi ngasibamba ngabamba lelanga sitojabula nje kube mnanzi nje oba kumnanzi. Kepha awu Shembe wenda umsebenzi lomuhle kuleso mthandazo itolo sibe nani saligwaba nani kwaba kuhle namuhla naku niligwaba ngelisiko lokuhle ukusebenzisa isiko leAfrika ngoba uNkulunkulu bonke abantu kwabapha tindlela tabo tekuphila. Nathi ke lapha kukhombisa ukuthi ngelisiko lakithi singavele sibambe sithandaze uNkulunkulu awu niyibambile maNazaretha. Awu njoba konke kube kuhle nebunanzi kwaba kuhle nani nibikile ukuthi awu wonke umsebenzi uhamba kahle ngiyayibona nenivuna lapha kuvuka lisinga kubonala ukuthi awu cha nembala konke kuhambe kahle sesithandaza ke ukuthi nani noma senihamba njoba nendlela yinze emakhaya kuhle kuhamba kusakhanya sifisa kona ukuthi nihambe kahle kakhulu uNkulunkulu anibusisa asibusise sonke maNazaretha.
Ngaphambi kokuthi lo mgido uchubekele enkhundleni His Holiness Mduduzi Shembe ucalenge kuyavusela silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu ngekhathi esigodlweni imbube emhlaba kunye naye umholi waleli bandla babene tingcoco ngemthandazo lo wethulwe kuleli bandla Eswatini lo beyimpumelelo ingwenyama iwubongile lo mthandazo uyaphinze futhi yathumisa netifundvo taleli bandla editsabeni ubika Pholile Maziya esigodlweni elutsitsini.
Tsatse loneminyaka lenge-24 lebekadze ayobeleka esibhedlela iRaleigh Fitkin Memorial iRFM usolabonesi kulesibhedlela ngebudlapha lopholele ukuthi kugcine kushona umfana wakhe angakabelekwa. Lo tsatse uthi-ke akatfolanga kunakekeleka nakakulesibhedlela njengaloku ahelwa ema-awala alinganiselwa kulali-17 solwashumba embhedzeni anganakwa ngumuntu.
Lo make losola sibhedlela sase-RFM kuba nesandla ekushoneni kwalomfana uthi wangena kulesibhedlela ngalesine Nzambama ngensimbi yesine uthi wefika sekavela phethwe ngumhelo wasedokotela bekasebenza wambhalela ukuthi akahamba yothenga liphilisi letawusebenziswa ukukhulisa litubayela lomhelo uthi liphilisi walinatha ngensimbi yesithupha Nzambama lo make locele kungaveli uyachaza ngalesigeme lesimvelele.
Ngithi mina ngiyasha manje liphilisi selicala lokusebenza short and selisebenza isikhathi leside ngithi ngive sekuphela umoya ngithi ngicela abanginathise manje avele angiphendvule lo ngafaka uniform athi ke hamba ucela imedi yakini ikukhelele manje ngichubeke ngishumbashumbe lapha embhedzeni ngishumbashumbe lapha embhedzeni ngive sekuphela nalo moya ke nyalo sengiphelelwa ngumoya ke nyalo phela ngithi ngathi mina bona sibayasitana vele angitshele ukuthi asiwufake ethini umoya la hamba lela abantu akufaka khona umoya kusho lo ngagcoka uniform yemanesi kuze kwafika udokotela lo dokotela wathi ngasangifaka liphilisi ekseni nakafika bathi bazama okay bazama kufaka insimbi bathi badonsa lo mfana phela solakaphuma angaphumi umfana emva kwaloko ngikhani babona ukuthi shothi vele sekude bangithathe ngikhani bangise theater ngabo 10 nakhona
President masakathi uyaphuma kulesibhedlela ngelisondvo dokotela watfola ukuthi la kahlindwe khona akakatfungwa kahle baphinze bacela phansi bamthunga tihlobo takhe tibe setiyefika kulesibhedlela kuyolandza lo mtimba waleliswane lapho bebafuna kuyomfihla lo msakathi utfolile ukuthi ngeminyaka kuleli kushona bomake laba nge-33 lababeleka kani bantwana balinganiselwe ema-60 labashona uma babelekwa losabambe kuba ngumphathi kulesibhedlela se-RFM Dr. Raymond Binoch uthi de angakhona kuphawula ngemsembuluko etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginalinda Dlamini sikaManzini.
Sabangetulu kwetinkhulungwane letingemakhulu lamathathu 325,887 bantu lababhalisele lukhetfo lwalonyaka lokuchumanisa sive nelibandla lelikhetfo nemincele embonisa ipembe uthi bomake solo bahamba embili tinombolo tabo timeko 173,000.
Libandla letelukhetfo nemincele yetinkundla i-Elections and Boundaries Commission EBC lithi kuyajabulisa kubona iMaswati asukumile ngelisasasa lelisetulu abhaliselwa lukhetfo ahamba ngesicubulo selive lesithi ngetengasala nasakhalive letfo Loxhumanisa nelibandla nesive Mbonisi Bhembe uthi kumanje eMaswati lasabhalisile angetulu kwetinkhulungwane letingemakhulu lamatsatfu kanti lelibandla lisukumile libuketa indlela tekukhutsata kubhalisa kulabo labacala ukuvota pheceleti first time voters.
Sikhuluma nje nyalo sesifikile etinkulungwaneni lesitawusithi 325,000 le kuyinkomba yokuthi eMaswati aphumile ngelisasasa futhi nawusibuka naleminyaka abantu cishe yonke letigaba tiyasukuma kepha ke sesikhona libandla libukile lisabuka ngemehlo futhi ukuthi ungabe batawufika njani kubo ikakhulu laba labacalako kuvota pheceleti ama-first time voters loku bantu labeminyaka lengu-18 kuya eminyakeni lengu-24 lobe-25 cha bona labo-ke basasihambela ngemuva ibandla ke litawusukuma liresponde lendele ukuthi nanabo bawadi lo msebenzi wabo bawadi nalamalungelo awo njengoba avela kuyo umthethosisekelo.
Leli bandla litibekele ligoli lekubhalisa eMaswati langetulu kwetinkhulungwane letingemakhulu lasitfupha 625,000 kanti selike lahlangana nebantfu labakhubatekile nebafundzi kucinisekisa kumbandzakanyeka kwabo ekwakheni live. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Samkelisiwe Khoza Nasimuva Shongwe Galobamba.
Kunelijaha lendzawo yakumalinza lelibhidlite indlu yakubo ngelihamela la ibeka phansi. Lesento ke sishiye emalunga emndeni sekede indlu yokulala kanti-ke ngelisonto bese kamnyetelene kulenye lencane.
Inhlitiyo yaqalisile Mkhonda solo ibuhlungu kulandzela ukuthi indvodzana yakhe ibhidlite indlu yakhe ngelihamela uthi-ke naloko bekungekhatsi kwalimala konke. Qalisileke usele nembuto leti timphendvulo ngesento sendvodzana yakhe lekangati-ke ukuthi bekayikhube ngani ukuthi beyingaze yente kanje.
Kwakungelesine sihambama ngabo past 3 ngewuka ngayingathi 10 ngathi ngisayebuka la ndleleni ngisahamba ngeva umfana memedala ngemuva akhala ngasuke nganganaki ngachubeka ngihamba waphinda futhi wachubeka nekumemeta wasonzela lokhu msindo ukuthi ngawulalela ngathi ngiyawulalela ngithi hawu ngasolidla ngiyaliva lelo ukhalela impongema ngathi nangithi ngiyabuka ngathi make umntwana uwisa indlu lo mntwana umfana nami nangijika ngibuya ngamshiya naye ngangasamnaki ngakhamba embili nangifika mina la ngithi ngivela nje ngabona indlu ephasi nabo makhelwane bese bamile labanye lapha babuka bathe heni sindlu seyiphele nekuphela.
Filmon Buyisa lokhulumele ummango unceseleke lo mndeni.
Sine nje lamangweni sibheke abantwana bakhule babe nekuthula asathi nokuthi kwamkhonda kamdiniso kwenteke njani bantwana asathi nokuthi kungakhuteka kanjani kumbe endlungulu noma kuphi lapha bantwana bangakhutwa tinto letinjena.
Kanti-ke kumanje le ndvodzana isetandleni temaphoyisa kanti-ke umndeni uhlala nje kulenye indlu njengoba yena-ke macalisile nebantwana bakhe le bangaba 5 solo-ke bahlala kule ndlu bonke ndzawonye nayo-ke lencane ukuthi bangahlala kiyo. Noma-ke ucela tandla-ke siveni afanele aphindze avuse yona-ke le ndlu lemthethe iminyaka ukuthi ayakhe njengoba newakakhe sewashona ashiya labantwana babancane wakha le ndlu nje solo uyavuka nebantwana kanti-ke bangamtsinza enombolweni lesi 7836 0600 elindzabeni kubeka Khiyani Msibuna Nasimuva Shongwe uMalinza.
Libandla lesifundza lesisendansi nelivekati lase-Afrika lelikuleli kutobuka ukuthi simo singilesikahle yini ukuthi likhetfo lelive lingabanjwa. ISADC Electoral Advisory Council likhutsata betindlu tebendzaba ukuthi babike tindzaba letiliciniso ngalelikhetfo phindze-ke babike tindzaba leticondzisa leto letingasito ema-fake news ngalolikhetfo. Lokhu kuvetwe lisekela lasihlalo waleli bandla Advocate Nothemba Chiphuja ngesikhathi yahlangene nebetindzaba.
Njengalokhu leli bandla likuleli lihlangana netinhlangosi etinyenti tehlukahlukene nenhloso yokubuthi imivo yato ngekuthi lakuleli likulungele yini kuye elikhethweni libuka ukuthi lolu khetho tewuba ngilelo elikhululekile yini futhi lelingathazi nolihlangothi lisekela lasihlalo waleli bandla lakaSADC Electoral Advisory Council Advocate Nothemba Chiphuja ube sewucela tinzatheli ukuthi tibobika lokungekho ngalolu khetho.
It's important for the media to report accurately because inaccurate information can lead to wrong perceptions. It can lead even to violence. media can also end up stoking up violence through incorrect reporting. So it's very important for the media also to understand, to know the electoral process that is relevant in their country, to have a proper understanding of it, so that they also are able to report on the electoral processes with knowledge and understanding. So that is very important. The media play a very important role. And I think they need to also have engagement with the electoral management bodies to get a proper understanding of how the elections are prepared and how they run throughout the electoral cycle, not just on the election day.
Leli bandla litobe selilungisa umbiko lelitawundlulisela ebandleni elibukete kuphepha esifundzeni lesingentasi nelivekati lase-Afrika iSADC Tracker. Litobe seyikhipha umbiko walo ukuthi lakuleli likulungele yini ukuchubeka nalolu khetfo. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla isezulwini.
I-International Trade Center imeme bathengi bemikhiqido yetandla labaqhamuka emaveni lahlukene kuthi bete batobuka imikhiqido yetandla yakuleli baphindze-ke baqinise tekuthengiselana emkhathini wabo nelive laseSwatini.
Labo somabhizinisi labancane labenta imisebenzi yetandla bafundziswe kabanti ngekuthengisa imisebenzi yetandla bayithengisele ngaphandle kwalaseSwatini kukhuleke umkhiqido wabo. I-ITC ke imeme bathengi ukuthi batobona lo mkhiqido walabo somabhizinisi. Mawenzi Dlamini uthi balethela bathengi nje kutobuka imikhiqido yalelive kuboneke nokuthi kungabanjiswana kuphi etindzabeni tekusenga nekuthengiselana.
Babafundzisa ukuthi mabafuna kumikisa imikhiqido yabo e-Europe ingabe athina ama-requirements kufuneka phize nangabe bafuna kwakha budlelwane buqine nalabathengako labalengesheya kufuneka bakwende kanjani.
Zodwa Vilakati lobukela uhlangothi lomsebenzi wetandla uthi bebavele badzinga ukuhlanganiswa nebathengi.
Si-department yaka-handicraft lebe kuyinkinga kakhulu bekungukuthi nayi le misebenzi eminingi yakhiwe kajake seyithengiswa kuphi. Losho ukuthi lithuba lelihle kakhulu lelivulekele bakhiciti bemsebenzi wetandla eveni.
Nebathengi-ke labaphuma ngaphandle kwaleli bathi cha bawubonile umsebenzi wetandla lomuhle labangawuthenga-ke phinze kwakhiwe nebudlelwane.
I sell where it comes from because it's a beautiful country with a beautiful nature. I mean, the hills here, everything is beautiful. And to create that vision in the client, I want to be part of that. Because it is, at least in Norway now, complicated to sell. This product will support that woman. Everything has to fit. So, of course, there is a market where they recognize and they appreciate the story of the products behind. But you have to go to that market.
Kulo mhlangano kubakhulumise nemathuba lakhona kulolu hlangothi nekwakha-ke budlelwano lobucinile kutokwe tindzaba letifaka ekhatsi kutsenga nekutsengiselana yona-ke le misebenzi yetandla. Etindzabeni ngeyongiyana emsibi kunanelisiwe Dlangamandla eMbabane.
Emakhetfwa elidolobha laseMbabane eWard 2 sakathembisa ukuthi ngekusebenzisana namasipala welidolobha laseMbabane atawusukumisa tinhlelo letawutfutfukisa leli ward. Lamakhetfwa bekakhuluma ngesikhathi akhankasa esivashini ngeLisonto.
Lukhetho lwemadolobha lwalonyaka ngaphansi kwelitiko letindlu nekutfutfukiswa kwemadolobha selungene esigabeni sekukhankasa. NgeLisonto emakhetfwa lasikhombisa idolobha laseMbabane eWard 2 ahlanganise sive sendzawo yasesivashini kutawukhulekela emavoti kule sive lapho khona sibe sesitfola khona litfuba lekuthelela amanconya ngemibuto phindze siphathise netincomo.
Yini Nkosi yami emakhetfwa ethu lasilungisele yona sibantu labasha ngaphandle kwebhola lesingamane sive sitilibatisa ngawo noma ke ema-project labasilungisele wona ukuthi baya nje kumasipala batawufike bakhulume letukwawo.
Cela ngasiyeni because each and every 5 years kuba nebantfu labafike basithembise banyamalale kuqhubeke tonke letikhalo nalentibonako atifiki.
Aseneniphuma lokuthi nanikhankasa lapha nithi niyawusendela lokuthi asivumelane lokuthi nje siyanithuma.
So ke akubanjiswane bengangicela lenini whoever lo takhona kuphumelela abambisane masipala nalamakhetfwa ngoba vele sibabhekile sibabuye.
Lobu kelikhetfwe lemadolobha etiko letindlu nekutfutfukiswa kwamadolobha mele usihlanze uvete imigomo yako kukhankasa.
Kwekucala kudizelana umthetho uyasho ukuthi akungadizelwana kukhankasa akube ngemlomo kungabi ngetento letifaka ekhatsi imali kukhankasa akungendiwa etindzaweni lapho khona kudayiswa tshwala kukhankasa akungenteki ngekuthi engcenye sotawu casha tindlu emahola uhambe uyofaka abantu ubalalise khona.
Lesigaba sekukhankasa sitawuphela mhla tinga-26 kule nyanga lesetulu lokulilanga lekuvota. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samukeliswe Khoza nginasimuva Shongwe eMbabane.
Kutemidlalo mengameli wenhlangano yemidlalo wesibhakela kuleli Webster Lukhele uthi ke bayinhlangano sebatozama ukuthi bashaye besibhakela bakuleli badlale kakhulu nalabo bemave angephandle njengoba ke sebabonile ukuthi nabachudzelana bodwa alikhulu izinga labadlala ngalo. Lukhele bekakhulumana kuchubeka imidlalo yesibhakela lebeyingenelwe nabadlali lababuya event laseNingizimu Afrika lebebanjelwe eMtsimba Shisanyama.
Bashayi besibhakela bakuleli sebadlale kakhulu imicuthelwana bakanye lokwenda ukuthi basale batayelana lokungenda ukuthi lizinga labo lingakhulu ngekusho kwa Webster Lukhele lokumengamelwa nenhlangano engamela umdlalo wesibhakela kuleli.
Sho silokwendekile njalo kungasho ukuthi emabox ethu Eswatini sekajwayelene kakhulu kanti lephuli emabox aside kahle. So senda i-return match nemfuzo sike saya emfuzo in the past 2 years so nyalo ke balana. In fact silungisela imidlalo yethu cishe letako kuma Continental Game AFBC latawuba khona kuyona lenyanga lesho ukuthi mhla ka-21 kuyoze kuphele inyanga. Then emva kwaloko sitawuphinde sibe nema-zone 4 lataba seMozambique wona ataba ngaJuly. So this is a preparation onke lamabox alahambako nje sizama lokuthi siwende ajwayele lokudlala international standard njengalokubona.
Loyanda Tibela lebekahola libandla lelibuye event laseNingizimu Afrika uthi kukhona labakufundzile kubashaya isibhakela bakuleli.
Some of the boxers here at Eswatini are in a top boxing league, because some of boxers they won their fights and some they lost. It says at least there was a competition between us and Langen as we're from South Africa.
Hlanhla Dlamini walapha ekhaya uthi kuyabasita kakhulu ukucudzelana nalabo lababuya kubomakhelwane.
Akukunika umdlandla lomkhulu kakhulu ukuthi angiqhubeke ngijime naloko futhi kuyangitshela ukuthi kuyona le division lengiyo la ngwane ku54 kg angicabanga ukuthi khona lomunye lo tawuphindze asithathe lesi sikhala sami.
Lukhele uphindze waveta ukuthi le midlalo itabasita kulungisela imidlalo emazone 5 latobanjelwe event laseMozambique ngenyanga yakholwane kulomnyaka losetulo. Bikela umsakade Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini eMbabane.
Ngaleyo ndzaba yesibhakela siyadephetha tindzaba tethu talomhla ekuseni sibahlola imakethe ngesimo selitulo. Masibuya lungelele uhlala phansi nafisiwe bakhulumisa indzaba ye-letter writing competition.
Welcome back. Sibusele nawo losanza kuzivulela bezivedile ukuthi isidaba esikhulumisana na Consumer and Communications Manager ka Eskom Fisiwe Vilane. Dokumenta ukuthi evikini leliphelile ngalesihlanu leli bandla lehlomelise abafundi laba bangenele iEswatini letter writing competition yeminyaka wa 2023. Abafundi ke labe bangenele lo mncintiswano bayendlula ku 3000 ngathi ke kube sekuhlonyeliswa labangu 18 labasuka etikoleni etihlukahlukene esifundzeni tonke tifundza delive bawenisiwe ke ema laptops baweniswa tincwadzi stationery kanye ne merchandise sibabonile ke nalabasuka khona etikolweni tebantfu laba nema special needs nabo bahlonyeliswa kulo mncintiswano so ukhuleke kakhulu ke lo mncintiswano lona over the years njoba lisasasa nje liyakhomba ukuthi lisedulo kepha ke kuyiteka kabandisi sifuna sinaye lapha Fisiwe Vilane losuka khona ka Eskom sikuvusele. Thank you so much for joining us kathi sagcina Fisiwe kepha nje siyakujabulela kuba khona kwakho. I think nje kokuqala kungaba kusichazela nje ngawo lo mncintiswano lokuthi ngomncintiswano lona lobaleke kanganani sathi ukuthi vele imvo lani ihambisa imbili lana indzabeke ukuthi bafundi ibe khona leyo inzima labayidlala ekuthuthukiseni vocabulary yayo ngathi ngiyakholela ukuthi lokubhala le competition lena kuyasedela ukuthi mhlambe kubavule itinzamente kucinisa vocabulary yabo kuva nje ukuthi ngabe ubaleka kanganani nje lo mncintiswano lona nesicubulo besithini beyithini topic lebekumele ukuthi babhala ngayo.
Yabonga ngubingelele Lulu ngibingelele nembukeli ekhaya. Uqinisile vele i-competition ngingasho lokho ukuthi iyakhula ngeminyaka. Le competition lena iEskom uyenda livela kangwane lingcenye yemavela kakhona kunhlangano yetemhlaba yetemaposi lebitwa ukuthi Universal Postal Union. Lokusho ukuthi umncintiswano lona loba khona mhlaba wonke kuwo onke emavela kameleleke kuleyo nhlangano. Kanti ke futhi lokuye lokuphakamisa kulo mncintiswano lona ngiloko ukuthi bamfana abangakhohlwa inzima ledlalwa liposi etimpilweni nasekuthuthukiseni emave lokusho ukuthi nje nyalo sesisebenzisa itechnology kakhulu yebo kepha liposi solo likhona lapho lisita khona ekuhambisene baphasela liposi nayo futhi seliyahamba netikhathi lokusho ukuthi nalabo ngcomvo mshina nebuchwephesha sebiyangena khona la ekusebenzeni kwemaposi siyafisa ke ukuthi bamva bethu bangabese bona sebayakhohlwa lokho ukuthi kwake kwaba nemvo yeliposi kepha bakhone lokho ukuthi baphucuke lisaphucuka naleli posi bachubeke nalo kwesithafuke ngiloku lokuvetako ukuthi vele lokhu sesibhala ngabo mahlale ekhukhwini sesibhala ngabo ngcondvo mshina uyakhanza lokho ukuthi lelisiko lekubhala seliyalahleka ikakhulu nje kunana kulesikubita ngokuthi text language ukhanze ukuthi umuntu kubhala nje how are you so ubhala HW yabona ukhanze lokho ukuthi manje ke mase ungathi loyo mvana loyo akabhale nje kahle nakube sekubita ukuthi ma composition kumbe esikhathini lesendlulile le quality noma kumbe lo msoco lokubhala kwabo labamfana awusafani ngenxa yokuthi vele sekuhlukele indlela lesibhala ngayo ngalomncintiswano lona ke sithi asibuyele emuva etimphanzeni tekubhala bamfana bafunze emagama bamfana bafunze bakhona nalokuthi bende licwaningo ngoba uma ngabe sengiyitfolile nje le topic noma sengisitfolile isicubulo salomnyaka kuyafuna lokho ukuthi vele bese sengiyalena le ngiyobuka ukuthi manje ke ingabe kwentekani emhlabeni mayelana nalesicubulo sakhona so siyethemba nje nalokuthi sebabuya kule competition lena ya 2023 bamfana bakhonile lokho ukuthi vele baphindze bavuseteleleke enzabeni yekubhala bakhonile futhi ukuthi bafunze ngenvo le kumbe bebangayibukeli ifutani ngaphambilini
njengoba uvedele nje mfisi ukuthi vele kuleti cards manje sesi ku technology vele abafundi abasakuboni mhlambe sithi ngokuthi babhala incwadi sebathanza ukuhlala kakhulu etingcingweni ema tablets. I think nasibuka nje the number of entrants lo 3000 ingabe vele mhlambe ningasho ukuthi lisasasa la lo mncintiswano liyakhula nasibuka nje over the years nje bovedele nokuthi lo mncintiswano uyakhula so ukhulile esikhathini lesindlulile kuze kufike manje
lisasasa linyukile kakhulu siyabonga nje kakhulu kubatali siyade ukuthi batali kakhulu lokhanza ukuthi manje ke bayabakhuthatha abantwana ukuthi bamngenele umncintiswano nabo thishela etikolweni uthishela ukhanza ukuthi umlayedo uhamba ngabo kufika ebamfaneni ukuthi nanga umncintiswano ukhona vele this year sitfolile lo 3304 webamfana wetincwadzi letingenile tibhala ngalesicubulo sethu lesithi manje ke ingabe tingodi emgwaqweni ungadehlisa kanjani kube nje wena uyihero ingabe tingoti bongadehlisa kanjani. Siyaqala ke kufika kule nombolo lena. Siyathi ukuthi beku2000 and something last year. Lokusho ukuthi vele sibonile lisasasa kakhulu. Nalokho ukuthi ke ubona leti ncwadi lokuthi bashintshile nalabamfu labati lethako basesekhona labe babhala eminyakeni lophelile but bamfana nje labo labanetidzingo letihlukile ikakhulu kuletikolo abo St Joseph's eMzimpofu bokwethembeni sibonile vele nakhona ama entries anyuka kakhulu lokusho ukuthi batibhalile bamfana tincwadi siyathi ke ukuthi indzaba yekuphepha emgwaqweni nabo labanye nje kumbe abakhoni kuhamba kahle kumbe abakhoni ngenxa yetingoti temgwaqo lokusho ukuthi manje ke siyabona lokho ukuthi lena vele bekuyindzaba lethinza dvudane nebamfana kanye ke futhi nalokuthi kunetikolo letinsha nje lebetingakase tazeta ungenela lomncintiswano ngaphambilini kulomnyaka lona tiungenela nekwekuthi ke kule kolabe bakubhala bowubona lokho ukuthi bamfana batiniketile isikhathi bamfana bakhonile ukuthi manje ke bafunze mayelana nekwekuthi lamanye amave endani tindzabeni tekuphephisa abantu emgwaqweni nathi nje kuletinye taletincwadi besifunza sive ngathi
so vele bathi
so vele
bokhazisa manje kusingeta nje sithombe nje on a few waletincwadi ukuthi bathini nje bamfana bathi singanciphisa kanjani letingoti
kakhulu nje baveta lokho ukuthi imithetho yethu ayigcini uma ngabe umfu angalandzeli imithetho yemgwaqo uma ngabe umuntu ende kucala emgwaqweni akukhonakala lokho ukuthi vele umthetho uthathe indzawo kuze ukuthi sikhone kulungisana lokho ukuthi mangabe lo mthetho uqinile kutawenda ukuthi nalabanye bese abasendi lokukabe uma bahamba emgwaqweni kwesibili ngilo ukuthi le mithetho ayingabuki kakhulu laba labashayelako noma kumbe laba ayibabuke nalaba labahamba ngetinyawo ngoba kukhona lokhanza ukuthi nabo abasawuhloniphi kahle umgwaqo sibawela noma ngabe nguphi noma bawele ukhanze ukuthi vele awusakhona ngisho ukuhamba wena loshayelako ngenxa yokuthi manje ke bona sebeva ngathi umgwaqo ngewabo naloko kubukakala kepha ke I think lokuphinze kimi kumbe kwaphuma kakhulu ngilokwe ukuthi sekunetindlela lamanye emave lokhanza ukuthi ayasebenzisa bongcombo obushina nebuchwephesha kuze kuthi bazame ukuthi manje ke bahambise tinfo emgwaqweni noma kumbe imigwaqo yabo imanage ngetechnology lokusho ukuthi nje bawendile ama suggestions bamfana ekwekuthi manje ke ingabe la kuma traffic lights ethu angeke yini lama traffic lights ethu khathe kokuthi manje ke asasebenzisa bongcomvo mshina kokuthi akhone kumemeta kumbe ukuthi manje ke seningawela ke nyalo amemete ukuthi nyalo sale uma kunetimoto letihambako akhone nje lokuthi manje ke abuke ukuthi kwentekani emgwaqweni akutshele ikakhulu ke lokho kuchamke kunemfana nje lobhale asuka eSt Joseph's eMzimpofu ngicabanga ukuthi kuyabukakala lokho ukuthi vele mangime emgwaqweni mina ngiyakhona kubona ukuthi nathi timoto tikhona tiyahamba nyalo noma nathi timoto timile kepha ke lona longabone emehlweni vele udzinga lo munye umuntu ukuze ukuthi amtshele ukuthi nyalo sesiyawela noma sinyalo sesimile loyo ke bekathi manje ke nala ma traffic lights akakhone lokho ukuthi nawo aside akhone ukukhuluma angitshele ukuthi manje ke kwentekani emgwaqweni nekwe ukuthi ke ayikhone kubonakala itraffic lekhona emgwaqweni bongcomvo mshina bakhona ukusibukela lokho ukuthi cha kamanzini namhla kuneseminye eminye akhone kokuthi manje ke adivert itraffic noma akhone kokuthi manje ke itraffic ingabe angayihambisa kanjani ngaletinye indlela noma akhulumisane akhone nje ukuthi manje ke labo labashayela imoto emgwaqweni babone lapho kunengoti khona bakhone kubona ukuthi manje ke emigwaqweni kwendekani lokusho ukuthi nako lokho kungasita ukuthi kwehlise tingoti kungasita futhi kokuthi manje ke kwehlise ukuthi bambu kumbe ukhanze ukuthi luhambo lwabo seliyakhinya beteka ngenxa yetimo letikhona emgwaqweni sibonga kakhulu nje ngalokuthi kunengi vele ngicabanga ukuthi nje kulama partners lebesinawo beyikhona iRoad Safety Council kunengi nabo labeva ngathi vele batakuthatha bakhona ukuthi bayokubuka lokho ukuthi ngabe yini lengenteka in the short term yini futhi lengenteka basaqhubeka benda emaplan abo eminyakeni letako
bengithi sifuna ukubota lokho nje mfisiwe ukuthi ngabe lokho mhlambe labaku suggesta kwabamfana kuletincwadi bese kugcina kuphelela lapho yini ekubhaleni noma mhlambe labo lenisebenzisana nabo ama stakeholders abese yakuthatha yakubuka njengaloko nje ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe itingoti singadiciphisa kanjani ngabe vele mhlambe the past years kulawa ama topics lenini benawo kukhona vele mhlambe lebese bayakuthatha kuloko labakubhalile labamfana babese bayazama babuka ukuthi singakusebenzisa kanjani into reality
lokuba kuhle lithuba lesilitfolile singumlawuli wetekuxhumana eSwatini ngiloko ukuthi siye sibambisane kakhulu nematiko ahulumende ngaleyo topic ngeminyaka litiko lahulumende liba khona lokhanza ukuthi liyasibukisa eminyakeni lophelile nje ngibekise beyikhona iMinistry yaka Tourism and Environmental Affairs vele bekukhona kakhulu lama suggestions la kakhuluma nge-climate change laba wathethe kuze ukuthi basasebenda leti ndzaba te-climate change basaphuma nabo basafundzisa sive ngokuthi nanga umhlaba uya ngekuya i-global warming nabo climate change yini timvo lekufuna ukuthi manje ke batibuke yini timvo labangatenda lokusho ukuthi manje ke vele akupheleli la tincwadzini tebamfana kepha ke nahulumende uyakhona lokho ukuthi manje ke atfole inhlase ukuthi ingabe yini timvo lekudzingeka ukuthi atisebende mayelana nalama topics la kakhona kulomnyaka lona bekakhona Ministry of Education sibonga kakhulu indvuna ivele yathatha isikhathi sayo yaba khona nje nakule presentation lokuthi letinye taletimvo bamfana labatisho ukuthi ihambelana tindzaba tetikolwa ukuthi manje ke tikolwa vele tiyadzinga ukuthi tibe nayo lemica lekhombisa ukuthi bamfana bawela kuphi nalatikolweni lokuthi kube khona nje bamfu ekseni noma bothishela noma ama volunteer lakata khona ukuthi awelise bamfana ngaleto tikhathi leti busy ube khona futhi lisekela landvuna nkulu babe masuku naye wasihlonipha wabakhona kulomcimbi bamfana bebakhuluma akhona alaleli ukuthi imithetho ayicine vele siyacela lokho ukuthi manje ke bonke lalaba bangaleti ingodi abakhona ukuthi manje ke liswadi lishaye kuvakala lokusho ukuthi tonke leto timpo leto tiya ngena tinhlelweni tahulumende ukuthi manje ke ti improve nathi ke sibuke tindzaba tabongcomfomshina netichwephesha kuneba ideas leswatfolako ukuthi noma ngabe sengifundzile leyo ncwadi yemfana ikhuluma ngalokuthi manje ke artificial intelligence kumbe itosita ngale tindzabeni taka road safety kuyanginiketa insight yayo ukuthi ngifunze kabanti ngako ngibuke ukuthi livela kangwane ngabe akusiyo yini imvo lengayibuka ukuthi manje ke yendeke nala ekhaya so vele sonke siyafunza kubi ukuthi nje bamfana bayabhala tincwadi nathi bayasifundzisa uyabona lokuthi umlibalo yembili usembili mbamba vele
Okay, ngifuna sikhulume ngama categories nje fisi ngibonile la ukuthi nebafundi labasuka khona eTkontabo St Joseph's labo bamfana labana ama special needs nabo nibafakile kulomncintiswano nabo kube khona inzema labayidlalile I think nje kusithatha through nje the categories lokuthi ngabe vele mhlambe yini lebeni ibhekile kuba bafundi
bafunzi lomncintiswano injongo yakhona ukuthi kube bede umfundzi losalela emuva siyathi ukuthi bafunzi abalingani siyathi futhi ukuthi netikolwa atifanani naloko ukuthi besibona ngathi uma ngabe sithi bamfana ababhale ngesingisi kuba khona ngalesinye isikhathi lemvulo ufuna kuyibeka but awukhona kuyibeka kahle uma uyibeka ngalolunye lwimi kunalolu lokukhuluma ekhaya lokusho ukuthi lilwimi lesiswati bafunzi bavumelekile ukuthi manje ke babhale ngalo nalababhala nalabakhuluma ngesingisi esikhathini lesiningi babhalile ngesingisi naloko ukuthi ke abalingani vele base primary besibabeke kanye ukuthi bachuthelana nabonsanga yabo nalabo labase secondary baphindze futhi bachuthelane ngensanga nabonsanga yabo kuba khona ke laba labanetidzingo letihlukile njengoba sowushido ukuthi umfana longabona emehlweni angeke abhale incwadi njengoba atobhala lona lobonako yena ufuna ukubhala ngebraille nalabo besivulile vele futhi sabakhuthata lokuthi nabo abayingenele icompetition babhalile vele batiwina bawina nabo lawo ma laptops nalabo bobhaki naleto timvote esikole labatiwinile silibonile vele sasasa kakhulu nje kuleto tikolo vele ngingafuna lokubonga kakhulu bothishela ngoba siyadi ukuthi manje ke ngibo labakhuthate bamfana babhale letincwadi tabo futhi tabuya kulesimo sabo lokuthi mine nje bangathiwa ngingumphathi ingabe yini imvo lengatishinja ngaleti ndzaba tekhamba emgwaqweni lokhanza ukuthi manje ke imvo lesingakhona ukuthi ibuka thini ngoba ngiyahamba mina sonke isikhathi mangabe umuntu uyachamuka ngiyamhotela kwenteka lokunalo kanzi lomunye umuntu ubuka letingcinamba lakabhekana nato ngelanga uma ngabe asebenzisa umgwaqo lokusho ukuthi nje siyabonga kakhulu lokuthi basivule letingcomvo vele basivule emehlo kuloko ukuthi diningi letingcinamba letendekako akusiko nje nadi lesitibona thini kulokukhona kwethu ukuthi manje ke sihambe sikhulume sive etindlebeni
okay so ngiyakhumbula kulomnyaka I think waveta indzaba ukuthi mhlawumbe sesicetha nje fesi waveta indzaba ukuthi nitfola kakhulu ama entries etikole la emadolobheni ngabe this year nikubonile ukuthi nitfole netikolwa ama entries etikole lethe emakhaya
tikolo leti semakhaya vele tisisupporte kakhulu sibonile nje lokuthi manje ke vele bamfana i-competition livilayo selihamba liyafika yonke indzawo. Bebakhona nje nasesibayeni kumsebenzi wekuklomelisa betikhona tikolwa lokhanza ukuthi tichamuka ngaphandle kwasemadolobheni. Sibonge kakhulu kubothishela. Nekwe ukuthi ke vele ngalendlela lababona ngayo nabo ngoba bona ngeke babhale ngema traffic lights. Bona babhala ngetinkomo leticala emgwaqweni. Bona babhala ngekweukuthi manje ke bamvu bangafundziseki ngekweukuthi umuntu abuke ngesekudla ngesencele ngesekudla before awele. Timvo leto thina lesicabanga ukuthi manje ke umuntu wonke kumele atati. Kepha ke umuntu mangabaleka la shame akusiyo vele imvo kumpela kakhulu wafundziswa yona ukuthi ayeni. Lokusho ukuthi nje vele kuyasida nalokuthi vele letikolo letisemakhaya nato tiungenele umklomelo tiungenele umncintiswano and vele sibonile tiungenela kakhulu kulomnyaka lo.
Okay, ngiyavakala simakhulu fise ungifuna ukuthi lama laptops bebatwinela ubona noma bebawinela isikolo.
Ema laptops bekawinwa first prize kuyo yonke category including laba nema special needs. Lokusho ukuthi umfana ngemfana abetitfolela i-laptop yakhe akusiko nema laptops nje. Ma laptops vele la kasezingeni lelisetulu lokusho ukuthi manje ke siyathemba ukuthi kutoba khutsata abamfana kokuthi manje ke nabo se ma leaders batawukhona naloko ukuthi manje ke letimvo labe babhala ngato noma kumise kutale eminye imincintiswano bakhone ukukhuthateka bakhone ukuthi nabo bafake umfutho. Sibonge nje kakhulu kulomnyaka vele ngicabanga ukuthi umncintiswano awukase wazo abamkhulu kangaka. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Alright, sima kakhulu ufisiwe Vilane loyo lesiwa khona ka ECCOM Consumer and Communications Affairs Manager. Sichazela kabanzi nje ukuthi umncintiswano weSwatini letter writing competition uhambe kanjani njengoba sekavedile nje ukuthi kukhonyeliswe abafundi labangu 18 kanti ke abafundi labaungenele lo mncintiswano babe ngetulu kwa 3000. Siyakholeleka ukuthi na next year lona mncintiswano utabane lisasasa lisetulu njengalona wakulomnyaka. Asibahlele tema ngathi sibene traffic.
Kubhalisela lukhefo sekuqalile. Ngakho ke faka isandla ekwakheni uhulumende wakho ngekuthi ubhalise. Bhalisela lukhefo estation sekubhalisa lesisedvute nawe. Kubhalisa kutawugcina amatili 14 inhlaba kulo setulu. 14 June 2023. Ungasali, zakha live letfu.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
Lesi sikhathi lapho khona emaphoyisa agubha kuba khona kwawo even. Kulapho kukhuthathwa khona sive ukuthi sike sihlale phansi sibuke bomcoka bemaphoyisa empilweni yabantu. Siphinde
Asipenze sinimukele eksele imizuzu lesithupha ukuthi kushaya insimbi yesikhombisa namhla ekseni sidabuka simo semgwaqo na Sergeant Gula. Sikuvusele Sergeant Gula, ingabe khambeka kanjani namhla emgwaqweni?
Angivusele Mthombeni, ngivusele ngalokukhethekile umbukelo welihlelo. Simo selitulo sihle kakhulu kude indzawo desibonakala sinenkungu. Kanti emadolobheni esilamakhulu kungaba kuphawula nje ukuthi abe kunene timpawu temgwaqo tisebenta kahle lokungito ke tibane temgwaqo. Sigcizelele ke noko ukuthi asichubeke phela sihloniphane ikakhulukati sihloniphe nato lezi mpawu lapho tivale khona yena siqiniseko sokuthi uyema sinikete labo labafanele ukuthi basebenzise lithuba nabo ngalokuphephile nemsamo kwethu motolo na ubonakala uphakama emigwaqweni yethu lesithi nakhona sigcizelele kubashayeli ukuthi asichubeke sishayelisane kahle sinake timpawu temgwaqo umhloniphe nalomunye nabo bese kasephutheni kanti-ke emgwaqweni wethu losuka lapha yekeni lasengwenya umgwaqo lo M3 umgwaqo lona leyo uphuma lapha endasi empandlana kulesigatshana nje-ke lesifika lapha endasi kumathapha sicaphele lapho bakhona labasebenza khona-ke emgwaqweni labangibona-ke basilungisela wona umgwaqo kunetigatshana-ke lapho bahamba khona basivalela-ke loyo mgwaqo loyo sithi-ke awube kunena sinake timpawu sihloniphe wena isiqiniseko sokuthi leli tubane lakho uyalinciphisa usendlula-ke kuleyo sigatshana leso kanti kulonye uhlangothi asivetele kokuthi nakhona lapha endasi edolobheni lakamanzini laphana uphuma ubheka khona emoneni siyawukhumbula malangeni lamahle kusimbela sonto yonke umgwaqo wethu lapho ubuthikamedekile kufakwa nasi yesicanco noko-ke baqedile lapho siyakucela-ke kusakhona abashayeli bachubeke banake njengoba kuyindzawo lesesenabo labo labasebenza khona emgwaqweni baphithitela ngetigatshana nje-ke kanti-ke lapha endasi elibonjeni sicaphele tinkomo nakhona na usuka lapha bomalinza bombadlane senesiqiniseko sibafuyi kokuthi imfuyo siyayikhweshisa emgwaqweni siyawuphepha size semaswati lapha endasi eshiselweni khona umgwaqo wethu solo uvaliwe lapha na uqhamuka khona ngakubukhasino ungena ikhathi yedolobheni nakhona abashayeli bayacwayisela kokuthi asinake timpawu ikakhulukazi desicaphelisa ngawo umgwaqo lesingawusebenzisa kwesikhashana kanti enhla nawo ema-potholes solo avalwa na uqhamuka khona lapha emotshane ubuya khona edolobheni lasespiki sithi nje bekunene asishayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela kungaba ngiloko nje kuseni sinifisela ilanga lelihle nisachubeka nemsebenzweni endlini emsakato naso sive semaswati sisifisele lona ilanga lelihle naleliphephile sisayisebenzisa
Swakholo Sergeant Gole kusiniketa loyo mbiko asibahleli temakethe Spain etindzaba tetfu tangephandle kwakuleli.
Bukela luhlelo embili kanye njalo ngelisonto ngensimbi yesithupha kusihlwa lapho sixoxa kabanti nalabathi ngetindzaba tenhlalakahle temnotfo netentfutfuko. Lolu hlelo luveta luphindze lukhulumise-ke imitsetfo tinhlelo nemigomo yahulumende letfutfukisa-ke sive semaswati luveta ematfuba netisombululo letiletsa-ke inchubekela phambili esiveni embili kanye makubete-ke liswati lelisalela emuva live lisachubekela entfutfukweni lekhonsile.
Welcome back at 7 o'clock. Let's take a look at international news. Desperate relatives searched on Sunday for loved ones missing after India's worst train disaster in a decade claimed the lives of at least 275 people, as India's railway minister said. The cause and people responsible for the crash had been identified, pointing to an electronic signal system without giving further details.
Search and rescue operations may be over, but countless people remain unaccounted for. Relatives visit makeshift morgues in the hope they'll find clues that could lead them to their loved ones, or at least what's left of them.
Officials are saying you'll find out at the hospital. I've been to all the hospitals and have found out nothing. Now I'm going to Bhubaneswar to find out. I just need my husband. I don't want anything else.
Authorities say the crash happened because of an electronic signalling issue, which caused a passenger train to change tracks and collide with a freight train. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi made it clear that those responsible would be punished after the investigation is completed. But there's another priority, getting the trains back up and running.
We will try to restore this track today. All the wagons, coaches, and bodies have been removed. The operation is in full swing, and we will try to finish the restoration work by Wednesday morning, so that by then, trains will be able to run normally.
Workers will be spending the next few days clearing the debris. India has one of the most extensive train networks in the world, but it's outdated going back to the British colonial era, and the government has made modernising it a priority. Several hundred accidents occur across the country every year.
The federal debt limit on Thursday, capping weeks of fraud negotiations to eliminate the threat of a disastrous credit default just 4 days ahead of the deadline set by the Treasury.
60-vote threshold having been achieved, the bill is passed.
In a race against the clock, the Senate has passed a measure approved by the House of Representatives on Wednesday to suspend the debt ceiling until 2025. The bill follows months of partisan bickering between Democrats and Republicans that saw Congress flirting with the country's first ever default. In a tweet, President Joe Biden called it a big win for the economy and for Americans. Comments echoed by the Democratic Senate Majority Leader.
Now, Democrats are feeling very good tonight. We've saved the country from the scourge of default, even though there were some on the other side who wanted default, wanted to lead us to default. We may be a little tired, but we did it. So we're very, very happy.
A victory, but not without concessions. Republicans' initial demand to freeze non-defense spending for 10 years was brought down to 2 years, but they succeeded in reallocating the $30 billion from the COVID relief fund that remained unspent. Democrats managed to secure the $80 billion needed to beef up the Internal Revenue Service in order to enforce taxes on the wealthiest Americans. And licensing for new energy projects for fossil fuels or renewables will be streamlined. The Independent Congressional Budget Office says the legislation will lead to $1.5 trillion in savings over the next decade. While the most conservative Republicans and most liberal Democrats aren't happy with the bill, there were enough centrist members of Congress to get the deal across the finish line. It now heads to the White House, where Biden has said he will sign it as soon as possible.
President Joe Biden delivered remarks Friday evening on the Fiscal Responsibility Act, bipartisan legislation achieved following weeks of tough negotiations that suspends the government's debt limit and avoids a potentially disastrous default.
Since coming into office in early 2021, President Joe Biden has never directly addressed the nation from the Oval Office until Friday.
No one got everything they wanted, but the American people got what they needed. We averted an economic crisis, an economic collapse.
On Saturday, Biden is signing the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which was passed overwhelmingly in the House and the Senate earlier this week.
On this vote, the yeas are 63, the nays are 36.
The measure allows the government to continue to borrow more money over the next 19 months to meet its obligations. It stops the U.S. from going into default, which could wreak havoc in global financial systems. Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who negotiated the deal with Biden, emphasized the savings, saying the bill has the biggest spending cuts Congress has ever voted for.
This is going to be law. $2.1 trillion.
Raising the debt ceiling is a routine process that has been done 78 times since 1960, but since 2011 has been a source of conflict when there's divided government. Many are now pushing to reform the process, including through proposed legislation that requires lawmakers to annually vote on policies to reduce the debt while automatically suspending the debt ceiling.
It would bring the two together, but in a way that would de-risk the debt limit and really take this idea of default off the table once and for all. By tying it to the annual budget process.
The U.S. is now $31.4 trillion in debt and is racking up even more. The Congressional Budget Office projects a federal budget deficit of $1.5 trillion for 2023, which could nearly double to $2.7 trillion by 2033.
The United States and China spent a weekend meeting in Singapore, pointing fingers at each other. The two countries' top military leaders accused one another of ratcheting up tensions in Taiwan Strait in separate speeches in a summit meant to highlight unity.
First, there was a Chinese fighter jet performing an in-air maneuver over the South China Sea late last month, rocking a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft in a move the United States called unnecessarily aggressive. Then, a few days later, in the Taiwan Strait, which separates Taiwan from continental Asia, a Chinese destroyer performed a maneuver bringing it close to a U.S. warship. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin called the move irresponsible, and the U.S. Navy called it unsafe. And thus, the stage was set for a war of words between the United States and China at this year's Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. The meeting is an annual gathering of the world's military brass and is a platform for networking and embracing de-escalation. Instead, both countries' military leaders exchanged barbs over recent events in the South China Sea.
The People's Republic of China continues to conduct an alarming number of risky intercepts of U.S. and allied aircraft flying lawfully in international airspace. We will support our allies and partners as they defend themselves against coercion and bullying. To be clear, we do not seek conflict or confrontation.
To truly avoid these incidents, the best way is for countries, especially naval vessels and fighter jets of countries, not to take closing actions around other countries' territorial sea and airspace. To put it your way, mind your own business and take good care of your own people.
Lee had refused Austin's requests to meet at the summit. While China's defense minister essentially told the U.S. to pack up and go home, it was China earlier this year that sailed a spy balloon across the United States and Canada, gathering information on, among other things, U.S. military sites. Lawmakers say China has gone too far.
You get this sort of sense of permissiveness that I think the administration needs to step up and make clear that China has identified itself as an adversary and we're going to treat it as such.
Beijing has for years pushed back on the United States' support of Taiwan, taking public offense at U.S. lawmakers welcoming the island's leaders, like House Speaker Kevin McCarthy recently did in California. The U.S. Department of State calls Taiwan a key partner in the region. China views the self-governing island as a renegade province.
An enormous anti-government march took place in Poland's capital Sunday, with citizens traveling from across the country to voice their anger at right-wing administration that has eroded democratic norms and created fears the nation is following Hungary and Turkey down the path to autocracy.
Organizers said it was one of the country's largest demonstrations since the fall of communism in 1989. Decked out in the red and white colors of the nation, 500,000 Poles took to the streets in Warsaw to say no to authoritarian Poland. 34 years on from the country's emergence from the communist regime, protesters say the government has reversed many of the freedoms gained. People traveled from across the country for a show of force called by former Prime Minister and head of the centrist opposition party, Donald Tusk.
We're here today so that Poland, Europe and the world sees how strong we are. How many of us are ready, just like back then, 30, 40 years ago, to fight again for democratic and free Poland, to fight for our rights.
Their fight is with the populist nationalist Law and Justice Party, in power since 2015. It stands accused of eroding the rule of law, turning state media into a government mouthpiece, endorsing homophobia and attacking women's rights.
I came here to defend democracy because I can't stand how the Parliament and the Constitutional Tribunal are being destroyed and the European Union is diminished.
I believe that this change is happening, that this transformation is necessary and will surely happen. Slowly but surely.
But despite the criticism at home and abroad of the Polish government, Russia's war in neighbouring Ukraine has given it a boost, as it's emerged as a leading voice against the Kremlin in Europe. Opinion polls show an election due after the summer will be closely fought.
Hong Kong police searched and detained scores of people on Sunday, including 4 arrested for seditious intent, as authorities tightened security for the 34th anniversary of the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown.
Here at Tiananmen Square, it's business as usual on the 34th anniversary of the massacre. Any discussion of the June 4th, 1989 violent crackdown on peaceful protesters is completely censored by China's communist leadership. Commemoration has been forbidden since the incident. Security is tighter than usual today. Likewise in Hong Kong, a heavy police presence. This was how residents used to remember the anniversary. But that changed in 2020 when Beijing imposed a national security law on Hong Kong, as the mainland tightened its grip on the once semi-autonomous city. Now, the annual vigil in Victoria Park has been replaced with a pro-Beijing food festival. Organisers say the 3-day event celebrates food from across China, as well as Hong Kong's handover to Chinese rule on July the 1st, 1997.
I think it's great, as in the past. This venue has always been occupied by others, but now we have taken it back. It reflects the prosperity of our own country and Hong Kong. It's a symbol of Hong Kong restoring order from chaos, and I think it's really good.
Since Beijing quashed Hong Kong's own major pro-democracy movement in 2019, people here have less room for manoeuvre. Leading up to Sunday's anniversary, officials refused to confirm if public mourning of the event was illegal, only saying that everyone should act in accordance with the law. But Hong Kong police said they detained 8 people on Saturday, including the artist Sanmu Chan, who protested as he was taken away.
Hong Kong people, don't be afraid of them. Don't forget June 4th.
Several sculptures commemorating Tiananmen Square have also been removed from universities, and books on the event removed from public libraries.
French far-right leader Marine Le Pen testified for nearly 4 hours on Wednesday before the Parliamentary Inquiry Committee on Foreign Interference, which is investigating potential links between her National Rally Party and Russia. At the center of discussions is a 9.4 million euro loan her party took out from a Czech Russian bank, which is still being repaid.
It's a report that Marine Le Pen's own far-right National Rally Party had instigated in a bid to put to bed the allegations of their ties with Russia. Instead, the report details their cosy relationship, and Le Pen couldn't hide her annoyance after extracts were leaked to French media.
This report is a reflection of the rapporteur. It's sectarian, dishonest, and totally politicized. The reality of this report is that there is nothing.
For the report, which has yet to be formally published, a cross-party committee looked into foreign interference in French political and economic life. They underlined the frequent contact between National Rally MPs and Russian officials, and the party's public whitewashing of Russia's actions, particularly with regards to Moscow's 2014 annexation of Crimea, which Le Pen has repeatedly defended. The committee interviewed a series of key figures, including Le Pen last week, where she denied any political quid pro quo in exchange for the Russian loan contracted by her party in 2014.
I signed a loan with a bank. I didn't sign a loan with Vladimir Putin. It doesn't commit me to anything.
The report also asserts that the Russian regime returned the favor, referring to a meeting between Le Pen and Vladimir Putin in March 2017, less than 4 weeks before the French presidential election. A meeting that only the Russian press was allowed to cover, and that was much anticipated by Le Pen, who wanted to build her international standing according to the report, which is set to be published in full on Monday.
2022 was the most devastating year on record for wildfires in France, For many, it was a wake-up call. Since last year, French firefighters have been preparing for a high-risk summer season, and this year's drought is making their task even more complicated.
Climate change has had an impact across France. The firefighters in Var are facing a new challenge, finding water for their fire engines. Certain places they go to are already dry before summer, and that makes getting the water they need almost impossible.
This is a natural water point, fed by rising rainwater, that we have not had in recent weeks. If we pump from this water point, we'll end up pumping earth and mud, and maybe tree branches at the same time, and so we'll damage the fire engines, and we just won't be able to use it.
To make up for water that's lacking from increasingly rare natural sources, there are reservoirs like this one across the department.
There are 30 cubic meters. It does allow us to fill several fire engines in a tight turnaround time. There is also the possibility, and this is what the state has done, of beefing up air firefighting resources. They have the advantage of being fast, they carry large volumes of water, and can be filled up with water more easily and more quickly than a firefighting squad can.
The International Energy Agency says Chinese car manufacturers are emerging as a major force in the global electric car market, with more than 50% of all electric cars on roads worldwide now produced in China. Spain is the second largest vehicle manufacturer in Europe after Germany, and its market has become a target for Chinese automakers.
As Chinese automakers push hard to enter and dominate Europe's electric car market, the European Union is launching a counteroffensive to support European automakers. In Spain, the government is backing a rehabilitation plan for an old Nissan factory in Barcelona, an effort that's being launched by an alliance of companies led by QEV Technologies, a widely recognized manufacturer of electric cars designed for motorsports.
We need the autonomy, the autonomy to produce really close to here. We cannot depend on what happened on the other part of the world. We really need to depend from suppliers that are close to us.
The International Energy Agency's latest report says Chinese automakers are steadily gaining ground in the European car market, selling 1 in every 5 cars in Europe last year. At the same time, European leaders are looking at ways to fight back and are taking steps to boost their car makers' competitiveness. The EU wants to incentivize manufacturers with tax benefits, loans, and guarantees to boost investment in European soil.
Gives new options for member states actually to support within the areas where there is a risk of relocation.
Market research done by the firm Benchmark Mineral Intelligence suggests the European supply chain faces challenges in obtaining rare earth materials like lithium for battery manufacturing.
China will be dominant this decade, but I think by next decade, certainly we'll see a spread of production and manufacturing, and I hope that the next decade we'll see more of a diverse supply chain, and that should be a more resilient supply chain, and hopefully it should be a cleaner, less carbon intensive.
Forcing Spanish companies like QEV Technologies to switch gears and innovate to retain advantage. For Alfonso Beato in Barcelona.
Stretch limousines, once a symbol of the rich and famous, are now rarely seen on the roads and at red carpet events. We take a look at the reason behind the decline in this luxury transportation system.
Art Mismer is vice president at RMA Worldwide Chauffeured Transportation, a company that for 35 years has been renting luxury chauffeured cars to its clients. Mismer says one thing has changed dramatically. About 2 decades ago, their fleet had over 30 limousines. Today, they have 2.
There was a certain cachet to the idea of being in the back of a limousine. Over the years, things changed, right? It became something that was not looked down upon so much, but frowned upon in many ways.
Robert Alexander, the president of the National Limousine Association, says things started to change drastically after the 2008 financial crisis.
Then we would give them a free upgrade to the limo, and it all of a sudden said you cannot send stretch limousines. We'd rather have 5 sedans there than one stretch limousine, just because it was sending the absolute wrong message.
One of the reasons limos have fallen out of fashion was because the new generation of American billionaires opted instead for so-called quiet luxury, in contrast with the fantastic displays of power and status of decades long past.
The late 80s or something, showing your wealth was something you did. You had the Mont Blanc pen and the Rolex watch and the $5,000 suit. And of course you were getting out of a stretch limousine. That was the lifestyle you were trying to promote.
Ed Lane's job is to organize trips for professional athletes. He too can't remember the last time his clients requested a stretch limousine.
You get an occasional minibus as well, but most of the time it's chauffeured car and driver, and everyone wants to be in the SUV versus the stretch. A lot of our guests just want to be transported in, be behind the scenes, be quiet.
Mismer says these days limousines are mostly used in funeral processions. As for business meetings and trips, as well as various parties, people tend to pick minibuses or minivans. These vehicles are easier to maneuver and park than limos, and they include elements of luxury like leather seats, internal lighting, and champagne glasses.
The National Building Museum in Washington has launched a new long-term exhibition called Brick City, which recreates the iconic architecture of cities around the world using Lego bricks.
The National Building Museum in Washington has been delighting visitors with a new exhibition called Brick City, which recreates the world's architectural masterpieces in Lego bricks.
And this exhibit brings wonder and the joy of play, and also, a sweeping look at architecture from across the globe.
The exhibition features Lego models of iconic structures, including the Colosseum in Rome, London Stadium, the Empire State Building, St. Basil's Cathedral, Buckingham Palace, and the Mayan pyramids of Chichen Itza. About 250,000 Lego pieces were used to build the roughly 40 models.
We can take a tour of buildings in every continent across the world, so people can learn a little bit more about things that are close to home, but things that are far away as well. And then we've got an amazing play space behind me where kids can create kids and adults, I shouldn't say just kids and adults can create something wonderful and create a whole new DC. We have a map of DC back there. Build new bridges, create new memorials, use your imagination. That's what it's about today.
2 models, a traditional Moroccan courtyard and the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, are among the most impressive.
I also have to mention, because we're in DC, the Lincoln Memorial is behind you. And what is fun about that piece is that at the time, Lego did not manufacture eagles or swags like the wreaths that are on the monument. So instead, Warren used owls and inverted hubcaps from like a car set.
The man behind the Lego buildings is UK-based artist Warren Elsmore. They took him some 8 months to complete, not counting the 4-meter-long model of London's St. Pancras railway station, which took him 2 years. One model is especially dear to Elsmore.
The model from Antarctica, which is the Halley 6 research station. So if you go and look at it in the exhibition, you'll see it's it looks like 2 kind of big blobs on skis, a big red one and a blue one. But behind that, we've actually put a picture of not only the real Halley 6 research station down at the South Pole, but also a copy of my model, which is at the South Pole, which the Antarctic Survey saw it and asked if they could have a copy. So I've got a Lego model at the South Pole and a little bit of it here in exhibition.
And though Legos have always been part of Elsmore's life, he says he turned it into a job in 2012, when London was hosting the Olympics. Inspired by the sporting event, the artist created the whole Olympic village out of Lego pieces.
Every Christmas, every birthday, every occasion. If asked what I wanted for a present, it was always Lego. So it's been with me now for well over 40 years. I suspect it probably will be for however many years I've got left as well.
The Brick City exhibition at the National Building Museum will be open to the public through spring 2025.
Lionel Messi was greeted by cheers from PSG fans as he took to the pitch on Saturday for his final match for the League One champions. Messi played at the club for 2 seasons and has not announced his next career move.
When he signed with Paris Saint-Germain, Lionel Messi said that everything about the club matched his football ambitions. But the relationship has turned out to be more short-lived than expected. On Saturday, Messi played his final game for the French club in the League One champions, which ended in a 3-2 home defeat by Clermont. As the teams were announced, Messi's name was jeered by some PSG supporters, confusing the club's coach.
Regarding Leo Messi, yes, I think the whistles are very harsh. Just like the season, he's had good periods and not so good periods. Maybe in a few days, in a few weeks, I'll find an explanation, some reason to understand the way Leo has been treated.
PSG confirmed Messi's departure after 2 seasons in a statement not long before Saturday's game. The Argentinian was signed to the club in 2021 from Barcelona, with the expectation that he would lead it to victory in the Champions League, a goal he ultimately didn't fulfill. Tensions between Messi and the club heightened when he recently took an unauthorised trip to Saudi Arabia, where he's a tourism ambassador, missing training. Fans at Saturday's game were divided about him parting ways with PSG.
Content d'avoir vu Messi sous le maillot parisien, mais voilà. Ça restera pas pour moi un joueur emblématique.
Ça reste un des meilleurs joueurs du monde. Il a eu une première saison, on va dire, d'adaptation, et après une deuxième saison mieux.
Messi scored 32 goals in 74 games for PSG. He leaves the club with 2 League One titles under his belt. For the moment, he has not officially announced his next career move.
28 minutes after 7, we've come to the end of our international news. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a break. Nasibuya sikhulumisana na Pico on the weekend police report.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you. the people of Eswatini, and teams of first responders.
Minutes after 7, sithola ke police report from police Pico Pidile Vilagati utasipha nje umbiko ukuthi basebenze kanjani bangamaphoyisa embobene sive kule mpelasonto kugwema bucala. Sikuvusele emphefethelo mhla ekseni, ingabe uthini umbiko lo siphathele wona? Phephetha sikuvusele lo mhla ekseni elihlelweni Kusile Breakfast Show. Ingabe usiphathele umbiko lothi nje mayelana nekusebenta kwenu kule mpelasonto kulwa nebucala?
Siyabuselwa malangeni lamahle usele ehlelweni lolunsambo kati yasisive ekuseni singamaphoyisa lo siyasithola khona nethuba lekwathi sesize ukuthi sisebenze njani emalangeni lesibuya kulo kufa ekhathi yona impelasonto. Umuntu angasho esiveni ukuthi solo asiqedwe ukuvumisa kusosive ngendlela lesisibambisa ngayo sisenda yona imisebenzi leyo lemikhulu naleyo lemincane naleyo ke lesekhathi sizaba kuphenya la sesilandelela amacala sithe khona. Sibonile sive sisibambisa kakhulu kubo konke lokho namanje nje sikhuluma sikhona kuchubeka nekusebenza ngoba ngesosive lesisibambisako. Sibiya ke nakuyo impelasonto lebeyibhizi kakhulu evenda kangwane siyakhumbula ukuthi bese lokuchubekela njalo phela tinkonzo zaseNazaretha lapho khona bekunelibandla lelibuya khona emaveni abomakhelwane lihlangene nebazalwane lapha khona la Eswatini. Bekubhizi ke kulo msebenzi kunesive lesiningi siyabonga nje kusosive lesibheketelele kulesinye isikhathi bebhida ukuthi mhlambe sigucule noma sisuse esindleleni lesijwayele kanjalo nasekupakeni kepha-ke basibambisile abantu benkosi. Impelasonto ke igcine isihambela kahle sibili ngakulowo msebenzi noko-ke sibenato tigigaba letenteka kuletinye tindzawo njengalokhu sibenengoti lapha emgwacweni lomkhulu MR3 umgwaco losemkhatsini wamathapha nambabane lapho khona umuntu lebekawela ekhatsi emgwacweni loneminyaka lengu-34 ushayise imoto walapha kwelehele wasishiya-ke emhlabeni nakafika khona esibhedlela. Leso sisicela ke size ngoba tingoti bantfu labashayisa kula bahamba ngetinyawo vele solo atiphele lokusho kona ukuthi size solo kuyadzinga ukuthi siqaphele kakhulu sasebenzisa imigwaco kakhulukati kuhamba etindzaweni letingaphephi njengakokuwela kumgwaco lomkhulu kakhulu lohamba timoto tibe timbili hlangothi linye kunebungoti lobuningi. Nasicela nje sive ukuthi vele asitame tindlela letiphephile zikuwela khona emigwacweni. Kuphinde kubeke nendvodza leneminyaka lengu-45 ibuzala letfolakele lapha elizeluze ngemgcibelo ekuseni nayo idzinzibele ekhatsi emgwacweni. Ibonakala-ke noko inetingoti emtimbeni lokusho ukuthi kungenteka kube ibulewe yabese yabekwa khona emgwacweni. Sachubeka-ke nalo liphenyo nakhona siyasicela sive siside nangabe kukhona lesingakwati sithinze esifundweni sakamanzini noma esiteshini sakhona kumathapha. Embabane khona silahlekelwe bantfu labathathu ngempelasonto kulandzelana kutfolakala banathe tiyatsite sebatsinzibele ekhatsi endlini. Munye wabo usesibhedlela. Lapha-ke labathathu kufa ekhatsi loneminyaka lengu-42 noleminyaka lengu-41 naloneminyaka lengu-12 budzala. Sisaphenya-ke ngakulolo daba ukuthi ngabe kugcine kwentekani. Bantfu-ke labatfolakele bashayela timotolo banathile babengu-36 kule mpelasonto. Nombolo lenkulu kakhulu le asati noma bekuya ngalokhu bekuphele inyanga yinye. Bese sicela size ukuthi asigweme kushayela timotolo noma kuhlala nje emotolweni ngala ngasehlangothini lomshayeli nangabe sekukhona lokuthethathethe lokubhasako emtimbeni. Siyati-ke ukuthi ngalamanye amalanga abantu baye bese basicocela ngemikhuhlane nekungathayi imithi yemikhuhlane. Nakulokho-ke siyathemba ukuthi bayawugwema abantu uma ngabe lokhu kutabenda ukuthi bagcine sebabhiheyiva ngendlela etaba ingoti kuwo. Sichubeke-ke nekucela kakhulu kathi lapha elibonjeni kanti yena tonke nje tifundza ngendzaba yetinkomo letitfolakala khona emgwacweni letigcina tisibangela tingozi. Siyacela ukuthi sive asisukumele etulu kule ndzaba sibambisane nemaphoyisa tonke leti tindzawo kwenta siciniseko sokuthi senda indlela yekuthi susa tinkomo emgwacweni ngoba tiyakhombisa ukuthi tiyasifaka sandla. Singalikhohlwa-ke licala lesihlupha kakhulu lelenteka cishe onke malanga nje ukuthi bantfu bathathelwe timali tabo ngekusebenzisa bo-mobile money. La uthola ukuthi umuntu uyakuye ngathi kunemisebenzi noma-ke into yakho loboyifunisa soyitholile noma-ke kunento layithengisako loyidzinga kakhulu bese imanani laphansi bithi seyihambile-ke imali yakho bese kukhanye ubona ukuthi bekungumuntu lo bekatodosa nje imali yakho soyinyamalela akasatholakali nakulolo cingo. Kuletinye-ke taleti incingo sithi noma sesilandelela ukhanze ukuthi akusito letibhalisiwe emthethweni kulabo labasebenzisa noma labo labaphethe tindzaba zezincingo kuye sekuba yinhlanhla lembi yokuthi akasakhona ukutraceka loyo muntu. Siyacela nje ukuthi sizasigweme sinika abantu timali sihambisa ngalabo mahlalekhikhini kakhulu kade nangabe lowo muntu loyo asimati vele sivamisile kuba netinkinga leti kanjalo. Kanti-ke lapha eBig Bend solo sigcine umntwana lomncane loneminyaka lengu-8 longuhlelelo wakantshangase. Uhlelelo-ke akati kade sekhaya nguphi watholakala lapha eSensitivity solo simlekile-ke siyacela ukuthi size noma labo labamatiko sihlelele ukuthi basize amaphoyisa eBig Bend bangamshayela-ke Sergeant Dlamini 7928 2166 7928 2166. Sivulile-ke malayini ethu kulapho-ke labanema-evidence labane-information nengasita emaphoyiseni singamshayela 999 singabashayela bo-9 labane singamshayela na-112 sifise la size kuphepha sisachubeka nayo imisebenzi yelive njengaloku sathi sisombuko soshoko nakuthi sonke sesiphumile siyayita indzaweni esingahlukahlukana kuyobambisa sona sive noma kuyosebenza sibambise emakhaya ethu ngayo impilo. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Umphephethe kusipha leyo-ke mbiko lovakalako nje losipha yena I think nje lokuthusa kakhulu tinombolo talabo labachuba imodolo banatse tshwala inombolo letithi-ke 36 sambe ukuthi amaswati atawehlisa lowo mkhuba lowo njengoba-ke usibangela tingozi letiningi emgwacweni kwethemba ukuthi umndeni wakhe ehlelelo njangase uvile mphephethe ukuthi kufuna bathinzane nani kude bathole yena umfana sibahlole emakethe masibuye emakethe. Linda Master Dlamini joins us sikhulumisa temidlalo letendeke kule mpelasonto. All right, 20 minutes before 8 lomhla ekseni Linda Master Dlamini sovele usijoyinile ngikubuyemukele lamhla ehlelweni vusele sive sichubeke nemsebenzi.
Ngiyabonga Sifiso, ngiyabonga ukungemukela ehlelweni lakho ngekutithuba lokhulu ngusele wena ama-loyal viewers ngumsombuluko futhi siphinde sibuyile sitocasatela bona babukeli totonke temidlalo letendekile kule mpelasonto.
5 things master tisihlanu letinto. Manchester City versus Manchester United FA Cup final. 2 League 1 champions. Sibonile ke ukuthi PSG sente njalo. I think 3 Messi ushiya yona PSG after 2 beautiful seasons la dlale nayo labe nekuba ne controversy kancane but nje sibonile into le prolific la tendile sitakhuluma nangato leto. Benzema leaving Real Madrid after 14 years after 14 seasons with Real Madrid, another player that has been prolific. And then lastly Ibrahimovic retiring at age 41. Asiqale ngalele mcwa kakhulu ke FA Cup final, Manchester City beating Manchester United, just one game away now from Kutfula United treble and making history. Let's talk about that game.
Yeah, in Manchester City Sifiso this season iwashintshile magiya idlala like a team le unstoppable yena Pep Guardiola uyakhile le team bebadlala ke i-final badlala i-final FA Cup against Manchester United bekuyiderby yase Manchester but ngicabanga ukuthi ama-odds onke bekavuma yona i-Manchester City kule game le nawubuka futhi nangandlela labacale ngayo ekhaya Gundogan ngicabanga ukuthi kulo past 2 seasons ushaya amagoli amxoka kakhulu in the history of i-Manchester City yena ekhaya Gundogan. It's so unfortunate ukuthi uyahamba ku-Manchester City ngente kadlala igame yakhe egcina ku-Champions League but the way le game ledlale ngayo Manchester City dominated nawubuka ema-passes 517 compared to 342 ingilendlela i-Manchester City ledlala ngayo position 60-40 compared to yona i-Manchester United. I think as much as Fiso i-Manchester United nawubuka the shots 13 hour compared to 11 Manchester City. Manchester City dominated i-possession but Manchester United iphose yenda lokumxoka kakhulu ukuthi itfole the most number of shots kule game lena. Ngicabanga ukuthi i-Manchester United game plan yayo vele beyithi isitayekele Manchester City idlale le bhola thina sitakwenda lokumxoka siwatholela uma shots.
Yeah, but ke mase siba honest nje master. Okay, ngiyabona ama shots ang 13 but there's only 3 on target. Nakhona the goal, the one that actually labe seliba converted was a penalty.
Yeah, le conversion ratio ngicabanga ukuthi ngala ku Manchester United nawubuka 3 on target compared to lo 13 lo shots lokusho ukuthi 10 wawo akabe on target. Kunenkinga lenkulu kakhulu ekudinga ukuthi bayilungise but ngeke sikuthathe into lenhle lendiwe iManchester City ukuthi ingahamba iye this is one of, in fact not one of, this is the oldest domestic knockout in the world yona i-FA Cup ngomhlenzela kakhulu kunato tonke iwinile ke iwinile league last week yayiwina FA Cup seyifuna kuwina ne-Champions League ithathe yona i-triple yagcina i-Manchester United in 1999 even Inter Milan yayithatha 2010 so ngicabanga ukuthi dinvoleti Pep Guardiola latifisako because is that coach is that manager, football manager lo tsanza ukuwina lengingasho nje ukuthi is a serious winner throughout career yakhe.
Yeah, let's talk about this man Pep Guardiola completing this treble, what it means for him. I think maybe before we even get to that, you mentioned Ilkay Gundogan has probably scored the most important goals for Manchester City. Let's talk about that first goal in particular. That was history in itself. Scoring that goal in those few seconds.
It's the fastest ilgoal lelishaywe kuqala ngisho ukuthi ngekusheshsha kunayo onke amagoli akashaywa ku-FA Cup final in over 50 years. So ungacabanga ukuthi leli goal lelo libemcoka kanganani kuye Ilkay Gundogan. Njoba ngisho ukuthi ushaya amagoli amcoka kakhulu kulo past 2 seasons ku-Manchester City. Remember last season against Aston Villa nangikhumbula kahle lapho khona bathatha khona ileague kwakora yena even na this season amagoli akhe abekhi kakhulu yena Ilkay Gundogan. Ngicabanga nje ukuthi ufike Pep Guardiola wafika wamshintsha since afile ku Manchester City aqhamuka khona ku Borussia Dortmund ufike washintsha lendlela ladlala ngayo asathi kinyalo ukuthi uya kuphi but Erling Haaland as much as angakori kule game le but kukhona lenivele ngiyibonile ukuthi seyishintshile la kuwe the way ladlala ngayo nyalo akasamele nje ukuthi ngiyomela ukuthi ngishayele ligoli kuphela uyabuya kancane drop kancane awende lawo runs create space azame nalokuphasa aphase emuva but okhona kushaya bo Kevin De Bruyne but okhona kushaya nabo bo Ilkay Gundogan. Ngicabanga ukuthi the way lasashintshe ngayo nakuqala isizini yena bekatsa kakhulu lamabhola onke bekakatsa ukuthi afike kuye but bese sekuyashintsha ngicabanga ukuthi i-effect yakhe Pep Guardiola ukuthi uyakhona kushintsha umdlali indlela adlala ngayo.
Right. Now, Pep Guardiola's side now face Inter Milan on Saturday for a chance. We would see by winning a treble. It's going to be historic because they will become the second team after United in 1999 to compete or to complete the Premier League, the FA Cup and European Club treble. Let's move on to PSG winning Good League One. How has their season been? Do they really truly deserve it? No matter it was unfair competition. Just looking at the squad they had.
I think so PSG this season ayikabingi le team le PSG le bese icabanga bongacabanga ukuthi Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, Evo Ramos bonke labadlali lokhuluma ngabo lapha bo Marquinhos bo Verratti bonke lo master players lawo bo Hakim ngicabanga ukuthi le team lena Ramos is leaving PSG naye but uwinile ileague ngicabanga ukuthi ayikadlali ngalendlela lebe kumele ukuthi idlale ngayo yona iPSG kube nenkulumo incumbi kusachubeka yona le season ulimele Neymar Messi kwendeka wahamba eSaudi Arabia without permission team mafans ngaphandle kwe stadium hlabela leto tingoma bekahlabela wabuya waxolisa Mbappe tonke letinvo leto kwathiwa ubossi vele unemashini uphethe team tonke letinvo leto ngicabanga ukuthi le team ye PSG tinvo leto letinga ema rumors athi ngenteka Jose Mourinho ahambe aye PSG asati ke ngoba ushilo wena wathi usengikude licingo laselitholile ku PSG usesene contract ku Roma and ngicabanga ukuthi Jose Mourinho kumati utafike nangafika afike lapha ku PSG kunenglo le cleaning la ngafike ayende because the team ayidlali like a team badlali the forwards are not tracking back ukubuya kuto assister kutovala leto tikhala kanzi I team ya Jose Mourinho uthi everyone including nalama forwards kumele abuyela ku midfield atovala letikhala so ngicabanga ukuthi utayenda le cleaning abakhokela abadlali la ngabadzingi kule team but iwinile iPSG league for the 11th time in 12 years.
Paris Saint-Germain have lost 1 million followers on Instagram in the wake of Lionel Messi's exit from the Ligue 1 giants. Messi spent 2 years at the PSG, winning 2 successive French titles, but his final campaign has been dogged by supporter unrest master, with the Argentine being booed as he went up to claim his winner's medal on Saturday.
For the first time in history, first time in career yakhe, umve apuishwa.
Yeah.
Ukhulumile Mascherano a week before ukuthi iPSG ma-fans kumele ukuthi abe grateful ukuthi adlalelwe one of the greatest in history, in fact the greatest in history. So ngicabanga ukuthi iPSG lo mshado wabo na Messi awukabi ngilomuhle.
What do you think the reason behind that was, Master Minenje? Umangbuga, it was a clash of egos, really, you know, in as much as kube khwalo ukuthi ba reconcile kahle phinze even the way the media bese portray ngakhona the relationship between the best players in the team. We saw Neymar siding with Messi through lama post lawa faka online. He would always post Messi bakanye kanye whenever bekunalama rumors ukuthi Messi na Mbappe, there's a clash of egos. I just think there was that le management yakhona angathi ukuthi kanjani, but
Sifiso kunana imvunayo eFrance angeke uze ufike uthandwe kwendlula umva khona ama-fans ma-French, they are very, very loyal. Mbappe is a king. France is a king Paris Saint-Germain and kuvakala ukuthi abashayisani kahle na Messi kube sesekwehlisa lolithando la Messi labanalo because of Mbappe. Ngicabanga ukuthi ngiyo lenvo lenye lebalimete kakhulu kanzi Messi nakefika etimini ngale status sakhe bongacabanga ukuthi utafike vele abe ngiposter boy wayo iParis Saint-Germain, but ngicabanga nje ukuthi tonke letinvo letine performance as much as ubonile azama Messi goal assist but akabi le performance performance lesibonile World Cup ayikabe ngile performance eBarcelona so ngicabanga ukuthi naloko kanzi bebathembile ukuthi nakufika Messi maybe Champions League bangafika abakazi solo afikile Messi abakazi bendlula ku semifinal kulo 2 years so ngicabanga ukuthi ngitotonke letinvo leti frustrate bona ama fans PSG kanti bebacabanga ukuthi maybe just maybe because sekuna Messi singafika ku final sithathe le Champions League.
You know, I'm just waiting to see what it's going to look like now that he's left the team. Eswatini, will they go past that semi-final? Because just from the outside looking in, they look like the better team, but it wasn't reflecting. But anyway, he was brilliant. You know, he won best passer. Let's talk about Karim Benzema. Karim Benzema leaving Real Madrid after 14 seasons. We highlighted that Master Mascala segment, Master. What a player, what a striker. What's next for him? Him leaving Madrid, what does this mean for Madrid?
I remember Karim Benzema nakasayinwa Real Madrid in 2009 aqhamuka ku Lyon beka win best young player and I still remember le award leyo wayinikwa nguZidane so kufika kwakhe ku Real Madrid nakefika ku Real Madrid bafika bana Ronaldo bafika bana Kaká and kufika kwakhe ku Real Madrid ufika wa overshadow ngu Cristiano Ronaldo. You remember that partnership ya Higuain Benzema Ronaldo lasha over 100 goals ku Real Madrid. Ngicabanga ukuthi uthi nakahamba Ronaldo wakhona wasesothatha over yena Karim Benzema ku Cristiano Ronaldo wathi khombisa ukuthi is that player lo ngamthembela khona ku Real Madrid 353 goals ku history ye Real Madrid. In fact only Cristiano Ronaldo lonemagoli amanyenti kwendlula yena Karim Benzema ku Real Madrid ukuhlula the likes of Raul Gonzalez. Ngicabanga ukuthi Raul Gonzalez he's a god khona eMadrid but overtaker yena kusaphasa yena Raul ngamagoli ku Real Madrid. Ngicabanga ukuthi irecord leyo lenhle kakhulu una 5 ema Champions League and more than anything is the most decorated player in the history of Real Madrid 25 match titles. Ngicabanga ukuthi akusiyo nje ifluke leyo ukuthi by chance but uyadeserve yena Karim Benzema uhamba as a legend yayo Real Madrid.
Yeah, just briefly, before Singenego, Zlatan Ibrahimovic retiring at the age of 41, what do you think is next for Karim Benzema and Lionel Messi in terms of with their signings? Bayaphi?
Saudi Arabia. Is it because of the
money incentive?
The land of milk and honey.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm waiting to see. I see Messi going back to Barcelona because Xavi uvetile ukuthi bebakhuluma. Let's talk about Zlatan Ibrahimovic retiring at age 41, Master.
Yeah, Zlatan, umvulongazanga sashaya ama trials. I still ngisenesilonza sifiso ukuthi Arsene Wenger wafika wathi uZlatan Ibrahimovic akashaya ama trials nakafika Arsenal wathi Zlatan akwentiwa lokho kuZlatan abesemncane ngaleso sikhathi abesemncane but nasobuka le career yakhe le bese seyiyalandzela emva kwaloko Ajax Amsterdam wadlala khona Juventus wadlala khona Inter Milan wadlala khona Barcelona wadlala khona Paris Saint-Germain wadlala khona LA Galaxy wadlala khona Manchester United wadlala khona AC Milan wadlala khona asabuya kwesibili about 9 teams lawadlalele yena Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Ngicabanga ukuthi emagoli naye lawashayile over 500 goals lawashayile and is one player lo ukuthi u-arrogant but ke kwafike kwashintsha kimi nakadlala estates because kunema racist inenkulumo le racist layisho nakadlala khona LA Galaxy lengangiphathanga kahle but still angeke uzokuthatha lokuthi is one of the greatest to ever simbone ebholeni etinyawo yena Zlatan Ibrahimovic naleti nkomishi lati winile ngicabanga ukuthi tinkomishi leti yes i-Champions League ude Zlatan Ibrahimovic ngicabanga ukuthi labaningi abakunaki lokho ude i-Champions League Zlatan Ibrahimovic but you know kunento Pep Guardiola lengingayuze ngimxolele yona wathi Zlatan naka Inter Milan Samuel Eto'o in fact Barcelona yathenga Zlatan Ibrahimovic ku Inter Milan nga-45 million pounds yaphinze yababhanisela nga-ethu. Leyo nakhuza leyo beyisho ukuthi Zlatan Ibrahimovic is way better than Samuel Eto'o, according to Pep Guardiola. But I still don't understand why.
Even at the time, you wouldn't say Zlatan was better at the time.
No.
Okay.
Even in history.
No, in history, obviously, yes. But at the time, when they were both getting signed, who was better?
Samuel Eto'o, no doubt. Samuel Eto'o bekabuya go because in 2009 bawina i-Champions League against Manchester United. Samuel Eto'o wakora ku final and he was so instrumental kuleyo Champions League leyo. Then baba clashana kancane na Pep Guardiola. In fact, the year before Samuel Eto'o ahambe bamncenga bo Charles Puyol bamncenga bonke labo bathi akangahambe, but Zlatan Ibrahimovic
I'm just learning, Master, from everything that you're saying. With all the great players have had their fair share of bad decisions and downfalls. I think Cristiano Ronaldo scandals, Pep Guardiola, as you've mentioned. But just your quick prediction, is Manchester City winning this treble or not?
Yes,
they're winning this treble. We'll see on Saturday if Manchester City will certainly win this treble. We'll see where Messi goes. He's losing 1 million followers. We're also going to see Kutsibaya Kona in Velele, land of milk and honey, as Master has said. Probably na Karim Benzema in the next 2 weeks that will unfold. But let Margaret tell us we wrap up the show. All right, we've come to the end of our program for the day, just opening the week on a high note. I believe that you've enjoyed the show. Lulu.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes before 8 o'clock. Thanks so much for joining us today. Sisaqala lona liviki sithemba ukuthi indaba neliviki lelihle nalelibusisekile sinishiya nje sithemba ukuthi indaba nelanga lelihle futhi we'll see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day.
The day you take Christ into your life, you begin to walk in a blessing.
Master